Have you ever wondered how much does it really cost to do a DIY project? And I'm not talking about the cost that, they advertise or that even I advertise when it comes to, hey, this is how much this DIY project cost me. I'm talking about the real cost of DIY. If you have wondered that, then today you are in luck because I'm going to go over the hidden costs of DIY that no one talks about. What are the hidden costs of DIY that no one talks about? Well, the first one is tools. No one talks about, hey, by the way, you are going to need, a saw. You're going to need, to cut the wood that I'm showing you that I'm cutting. You're going to need a tile cutter. You're going to need a nail gun. You're going to need a pressurized air tank for the nail gun. You'll need a drill. And by the way, you'll need drill bits. And you will also need just a whole bunch of other things. And if you do not have those, then that's a very high upfront cost that no one talks about. It's very easy to look at these projects and say, oh, I can do that. And you can do that. But know that it is not just going to be no upfront cost. And I feel like that's a hidden cost that no one talks about, is the fact that you have to have tools in order to do these projects. I am very, very lucky in that my father has literally all the tools you could ever want. My dad used to flip houses when I was in high school. And so he, one, knows how to do all of these things and has taught us a lot on how to do DIY projects. But he also has literally every tool you can think of to do these projects. And unfortunately, now that he's no longer with me, at the end of the day, those tools are now mine, which that means a lot to me because when I use them, I get to think about him. So that means a lot to me. But that is still a hidden cost that no one talks about. What's another hidden cost? The fact that you don't know what you're doing fully. You may think you know, or maybe you do know. And I think that if that's the case, you are probably someone who's seasoned now, but you've learned from trial and error. And so because you don't fully know what you're doing, there is a lot of costs that can come with, oh, I did that wrong. I'm going to have to fix that. Or, oh, I didn't, optimize that correctly, so now I'm going to have to adjust that. And then that takes more time or more energy or more money. I have multiple examples of how we managed to do that here within this channel already of my DIY fails. I have managed to flood my basement 2 times by doing DIY projects. I have managed to completely waste very expensive tile because you weren't supposed to allow it to be just fully exposed to water all the time, and I put it on the floor of a shower. So there are many things that I have managed to make things cost more money that I was not anticipating. Other examples are, having to caulk things multiple times because I didn't caulk it right the first time, or I don't like how it looks, or having to change how something's grouted. One of the bathrooms in the kids' bathroom in my old home, when we did the grouting, the color just did not look good. And so we ended up having to, there is paint that you can do there's like a grouting that you can put on top of it, and it's waterproof and it's colored, and we chose black, and I had to do all of that for all the grouting, and that took a lot of time, and that was more expensive. So there are many mistakes that you can make with DIY because you're learning, you're figuring it out, but those things are costly. So you have to budget that with your, what are you doing with your budget, and think about that when you are determining how much money you're going to spend on things. Another hidden cost with DIY is your time. You don't think about how your time is money. You only have one life. You only have so much time, right? And that is, time that you are giving up to dedicate to these projects. And if it's something that you love and enjoy, perfect. Then you don't mind. That's like a hobby for you, right? You don't mind dedicating your time and energy to that. But if it's not something and you're doing it just to save money, I really encourage you to think about, well, how much money are you really saving if you get paid a certain dollar amount, for your time at work? Say, for instance, I make this much money per hour. This is how much money per hour I'm paying a contractor who knows what they are doing. And if they do it wrong, then they have to fix it. And that's on their time and not on my time. Then does that equate to you're saving money or not? And that's something to think about. So if you, like I said, enjoy this is something that you really enjoy putting it all together, figuring it out, being able to look at that and be like, man, I did that. Then great. I think that DIY makes so much sense for you. And I'm in the same boat. Let's high five. We got this. Let's do this. And let's show the world what we can do, right? But if that's not you and you're hoping to do this just because you think it's going to save you money, I would encourage you to think about that hidden cost truly, because it's not one that we typically think about. In total, the main hidden costs that I could think about were tools, mistakes, and how much that costs us when we accidentally do it wrong and we have to fix it. And then the time that it actually takes, and knowing that our time actually means something. So those are the hidden costs of DIY that I feel like no one really talks about. What do you think I missed? Is there anything I missed that I should have mentioned? If you can think of something that is another hidden cost of DIY, please put it in the comments below and we can talk about it. And I encourage you to take the plunge. If this is something that you think would provide you a lot of joy and happiness, then start trying to do DIY projects. But I have a video, I'll link it up here, that goes over how can you budget for that so that you're not going completely over budget, because with the first projects that I did, I completely went over budget. Didn't even realize I was doing it because I wasn't even thinking about it really. I was just thinking, oh, it probably costs around this much. Oh, it probably costs about this much. But there's a lot of things that you have to add when it comes to not just tools, but the products that you have to buy in order to do each, individual thing that costs more than what you think. Like for example, when you do an accent wall. Okay, the paneling, yeah, that only costs, $20, $20, $40, depending on what paneling that you're doing. If you're doing an accent wall with paneling, I'm just using that as an example. But you have to think about how much do nails cost, because you are wanting to secure that very safely to your wall. You have to think about the adhesive that you're going to put on the back of it in order to stick it to the wall, and again, to make sure that it stays on there the way that you want to before you put the nails in. And so that takes an additional amount of money. Any trim that you may have to change because of where you're putting the paneling and what that looks like. So there are these hidden costs that we don't necessarily think through. We think more about the cost of the just panel itself. And that's usually how we talk about it too, is this panel cost me this much money and the paint cost me this much money. And so in total, this only cost me this much money. But I didn't tell you about the nail cost. I didn't tell you about the adhesive cost. I didn't tell you about the hidden costs that come with DIY that we usually don't spell out when we are presenting these things to our viewers. So hopefully this transparency is helpful when it comes to what does this actually look like when you go to do it in your home. I hope, again, that you have a luxurious, wonderful day, but try to keep it on a low budget. Bye, guys.